We have recently had another kickoff to the holiday shopping season, and so I thought I would make a video about why saving money feels so hard, how marketing and consumer culture influence our buying habits, and how a simple structure can help us anchor to the road that inevitably leads to financial stability. We grew up hearing that the small purchases are what ruins us financially, that if we just skip the latte, everything would fall into place. But the real damage? It comes from the big, recurring commitments we barely notice, the ones that quietly shape the entire arc of our money story, month after month, year after year. Most people assume their budget falls apart because of tiny indulgences. The takeout, the coffees, the impulse buys that seem to multiply when we're not looking. But the real strain lives elsewhere, in the larger, long-term choices we make about our homes and cars and our lifestyles. These decisions ripple outward through every month that follows, creating waves we're still swimming against years later. There was a time I genuinely believed my entire financial mess came down to a $4 cup of coffee. I know how that sounds. Ridiculous, almost laughable. But that's the story I carried around like a stone in my pocket. Every headline, every financial tip, every relative with an opinion made it sound like the latte was my downfall, my original sin. And here's what's funny. Even during the months when I was fiercely, almost religiously disciplined about the little things, nothing actually changed. My debt didn't shrink, my stress didn't lift, my account balance didn't magically blossom into something I could be proud of. It was like trimming the leaves of a plant with rotten roots. Nothing in the top ever looked any different, no matter how carefully I pruned. And eventually, slowly it hit me. Maybe I'd been staring at the wrong problem this whole time. When I finally zoomed out, the picture shifted in a way that felt almost embarrassing. It wasn't the $4 habit keeping me stuck, it was the $400 one. The car payment that felt like paying rent twice. The apartment I chose because it made me feel successful, whatever that means. The subscriptions I signed up for during some moment of temporary optimism and then completely forgot that they existed, multiplying quietly in the background. It was like discovering a slow leak in the basement while obsessing over a dripping faucet upstairs. One was annoying, the other was literally flooding the foundation. Don't get me wrong, the small purchases aren't meaningless. They just don't deserve the crushing weight of guilt we attach to them. They become easy targets precisely because they're visible, tangible, and immediate. We can see them, touch them, regret them almost in real time. They are rarely the ones that determine whether we sleep peacefully at night or lie awake doing late-night math in our heads, calculating whether we can actually afford to exist. Once I understood that, something heavy shifted inside me. Guilt gave way to clarity, and clarity, quietly, gave way to hope. There's a particular kind of silence that happens when you're sitting at a kitchen table with your bills spread out in front of you. It's not peaceful, it's not calm, it's more like a hush that sits on your shoulder, the weight of the numbers you wish you could ignore, statements you wish you could unsee, like the calm before the storm, but the storm isn't coming for another couple years. I remember one evening staring at my credit card statement, convinced I was simply bad with money, fundamentally flawed somehow. But as I sat there, something shifted. It wasn't that I was reckless, I just didn't have a system, no plan, no rhythm, no boundaries. Just a series of reactions to a world that constantly nudges us to want more, buy more, upgrade more. And interest was its own kind of trickster. It dressed itself up as a convenience. Buy now, pay later. Like it was doing you a favor. But the true cost always revealed itself in the end. A car that ends up costing a third more than its sticker price you paid. A house that doubles itself over 20 years. A credit card balance that grows like something alive, like it's been watered and fed. It's wild how much our financial experience is simply the cost of buying time we don't have. The turning point for me came excruciatingly slowly. Not from some big epiphany, but from a quiet realization that I didn't want to live this way anymore. That I was tired of feeling perpetually behind. I stopped letting new recurring payments creep in, almost like closing the door to a room that was letting in a draft. No more, just a little extra per month. No more, everyone finances their cars these days. No more, I'll figure it out later. I still bought things, absolutely. But something deep inside me shifted when I used the money I had already saved. There is a weight to spending real, earned money that credit can never reproduce. It makes you pause, not in a guilty way, more like a moment of genuine self-awareness. You feel the value of the thing and the value of the money, and suddenly the trade-off becomes unmistakably clear. What surprised me most is how much lighter everything felt once those big monthly commitments loosened their grip. Saving didn't feel like a punishment anymore. Investing didn't feel like a fantasy reserved for the 1%. And spending, real, intentional spending, actually felt more joyful. There's something deeply satisfying about owning something outright. You stand a little taller. You breathe a little deeper. Because the thing you bought doesn't follow you home every month asking for more, showing up in your inbox like an uninvited guest. That freedom adds up in ways the lattes never could. For the longest time, I carried this quiet shame that I simply lacked discipline. That other people could resist impulse buys because they were stronger or smarter or more mature. And I was somehow lagging behind, perpetually. But willpower is such a fragile thing. It wavers with stress, with sleep, with mood, with the 1,000 tiny moments that make up a day. And meanwhile, we live surrounded by things designed to bypass our willpower entirely. Flash sales, urgent banners, one-click purchases, influencers showing us upgraded versions of our own lives. It took me a long time to admit that I wasn't built to fight all that alone. None of us are. So instead of trying harder, I changed the environment around me. Not dramatically, just enough to give myself a fighting chance. I started saving towards things I knew were coming anyway. The next vacation in a year, the next car in a few years, the next round of holiday gifts 11 months from now. Little pockets of money with names and intentions, like putting labels on jars. I began writing things down I wanted in a list instead of buying them on impulse. There was something almost therapeutic about moving desire out of my head and onto paper. It made the urgency evaporate like the morning fog. A few days later, or weeks, half of the things in the list didn't even matter anymore. And I began to notice another pattern. When I wasn't spending tomorrow's income through loans or credit, today's income suddenly felt larger, more spacious, less like a tight hallway I had to squeeze through just to make it to the next paycheck. Having even a simple structure, one with wide margins and gentle guidelines, felt like opening a window in a stuffy room. Fresh air, light, breathing room. It didn't make me perfect with money, just calmer around it, more grounded, more aware of the actual relationship I was having with my finances, rather than the anxious, avoidant one I'd been living with for years. And the strangest part? I actually enjoyed spending more, the same way food tastes better when you're truly hungry. Buying something with savings I had set aside made the purchase feel earned, not impulsive. There was pride in it. Peace in it. It was the opposite of deprivation. It was abundance with boundaries. In the end, the struggle was never about the tiny choices. It was about the quiet, structural things that shaped the entire financial life without me noticing. The big payments, the long commitments, the interest that had trailed behind every decision like a shadow. Once these shifted, everything else followed. Saving stopped feeling like a chore. Spending stopped feeling like a guilt. And life opened up just a little more, like a door I didn't know that had been closed. There's something deeply human about wanting nice things, wanting comfort, wanting ease. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when the structure around our money supports us, when it's simple and clear and honest, we get to enjoy these things without sacrificing our futures. And maybe that's the real lesson in this. Freedom isn't about spending less. It's about spending in a way that lets you breathe, that lets you enjoy more of what you have earned. Thank you.